Another key to trusting God when prayers go unanswered is to stay connected to your faith community. Share your struggles with others who can pray with you, encourage you, and remind you of God's faithfulness. Sometimes, the support of others is the answer to your prayer for comfort and strength. Don't isolate yourself in your pain. Let others walk with you through the valley. Finally, surrender. This is the hardest part, but it is also the most freeing. Surrender means letting go of your need to control the outcome, to have all the answers, to understand every detail. It means placing your life, your hopes, your dreams, and your unanswered prayers in God's hands, trusting that He is writing a story that is bigger and more beautiful than you can imagine. If you are struggling with unanswered prayers right now, take heart. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being invited into a deeper relationship with God, a relationship built not on transactions, but on trust. The true meaning of trust is not found in the fulfillment of every request, but in the willingness to believe that God is with you, for you, and working all things together for your good, even when you cannot see it. When you find yourself in the long, quiet valley of unanswered prayers, it's easy to feel lost or even abandoned. But this is the very place where trust is forged, not in the certainty of outcomes, but in the certainty of God's character. Trust is not a passive resignation. It is an active, daily choice to believe that God is good, that He loves you, and that He is working, even in the silence. One of the most powerful things you can do in this season is to shift your focus from the outcome to the relationship. Instead of asking, "When will God answer?" begin to ask, "How can I draw closer to God in this waiting?" Sometimes, the unanswered prayer is an invitation to intimacy, to a deeper walk with God that you might never have experienced if every request was granted immediately. In the waiting, you learn to listen for God's voice in new ways, to notice His presence in the small moments, and to discover that He is enough, even when nothing else makes sense. It's also important to remember that your unanswered prayers do not define your worth or your faith. Sometimes we fall into the trap of believing that if we just prayed harder, believed more, or lived better, God would give us what we want. But God's love is not a reward for good behavior, and His answers are not a measure of your spiritual performance. God's love is unconditional, and His wisdom is beyond our understanding. Trust means letting go of the need to earn God's favor and resting in the assurance that you are already loved, already chosen, already enough. In the midst of waiting, look for the ways God is shaping your character. Unanswered prayers often teach us patience, humility, and compassion. They remind us that we are not in control and that life is full of mystery. They help us develop empathy for others who are struggling, and they open our hearts to the pain and beauty of being human. Sometimes, the greatest gift of unanswered prayer is the person you become in the process, the person who can comfort others, who can stand firm in the storm, who can say, "Even if God does not answer the way I hope, I will still trust Him." Another important step is to keep praying, even when it feels pointless. Prayer is not just about getting answers. It's about building a relationship. It's about pouring out your heart, your fears, your hopes, and your disappointments to the one who knows you best. Sometimes, the act of praying is itself the answer, a way to find peace, to release your burdens, and to remember that you are not alone. Don't be afraid to pray bold prayers, honest prayers, even angry prayers. God can handle it all, and He would rather have your honest heart than your perfect words. As you wait, look for the small signs of God's faithfulness. Maybe it's a word of encouragement from a friend, a moment of beauty in nature, or a sense of peace that comes when you least expect it. These are reminders that God is with you, that He sees you, and that He cares. Sometimes, the answer to your prayer is not a change in your circumstances, but a change in your heart, a new perspective, a deeper sense of trust, a quiet confidence that God is enough. If you find yourself growing weary, remember the stories of those who have gone before you. Abraham waited decades for the promise of a son. Joseph spent years in prison before his dreams were fulfilled. Hannah wept and prayed for a child, not knowing when or if her prayer would be answered. Each of them faced seasons of silence, of waiting, of wondering, but each of them also discovered that God was faithful, that His timing was perfect, and that His plans were greater than their own. Finally, let your unanswered prayers become a testimony. Share your story with others who are struggling. Let them see your faith, your honesty, your perseverance. Sometimes, your willingness to trust God in the dark is the very light someone else needs to find their way. You may never know the impact your story has, but God does. He uses every part of your journey, the waiting, the hoping, the trusting, for a purpose greater than you can imagine. So, what do you do when your prayers go unanswered? You trust, you keep praying, you keep hoping, you keep loving. And you remember that the true meaning of trust is not found in the answers, but in the relationship. God is with you, He is for you, and He will never leave you, even in the silence, even in the waiting, even when the answer is no. You are held in the hands of a God who loves you more than you can comprehend. There are moments in every person's life when the silence from heaven feels deafening. You pray with all your heart. You pour out your soul, and you wait, hoping, believing, longing for a sign, a miracle, an answer. But sometimes the answer doesn't come. The door stays closed. The healing doesn't happen. The relationship isn't restored. And in those moments, you may find yourself asking, "Why, God? Why are my prayers going unanswered?" If you're in that place right now, know that you are not alone. Every person of faith at some point faces the mystery of unanswered prayer. Even the greatest spiritual leaders, the saints, the prophets, and the disciples, all wrestled with this question. The Bible is filled with stories of people who waited, who wept, who wondered if God was listening. And yet, woven through all those stories is a deeper truth, a truth about trust, about faith, and about what it really means to believe when the answer is not yet or even no. Trust is easy when life is going your way, when prayers are answered quickly, and when blessings flow without resistance. But the true meaning of trust is revealed in the waiting, in the uncertainty, in the moments when you have no choice but to let go of your own understanding and lean into God's wisdom. Trust is not about getting what you want. It's about believing that God knows what you need, even when you don't. So what do you do when your prayers go unanswered? The first step is to be honest with God. Bring your disappointment, your frustration, your confusion, and your pain to Him. God is not offended by your questions or your doubts. He welcomes your honesty. In fact, some of the most powerful prayers in the Bible are cries of anguish, of longing, of wrestling with God in the darkness. David, in the Psalms, often poured out his heart, asking, "How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever?" Jesus Himself, in the Garden of Gethsemane, prayed, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." Yet, in both cases, trust was not abandoned. It was deepened. The next step is to remember that God's silence is not the same as His absence. Just because you don't see immediate results doesn't mean God isn't working. Sometimes, the greatest miracles happen in the hidden places, in the quiet transformation of your heart, in the slow unfolding of a bigger plan. God's timing is not our timing. What feels like a delay may actually be preparation. What feels like a denial may be protection. Trust means believing that God is good, even when life is hard. It's also important to look for the ways God is answering your prayers in unexpected ways. Sometimes, we are so focused on the answer we want that we miss the blessings that are already present. Maybe the job you prayed for didn't come through, but a new opportunity opened up that you never considered. Maybe the relationship you wanted to save ended, but you found a deeper sense of self-worth and peace. God's answers are not always what we expect, but they are always what we need. In the waiting, cultivate gratitude. Thank God for the blessings you do have, for the strength to endure, for the lessons you are learning. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what is lacking to what is possible. It opens your heart to receive the gifts that are hidden in the waiting.